nothing with nerves at all. So kia ora. My name is Glenn. For the last 5 years, I was working as the Lateral Security and then the Tesserent account manager for the South Island, replacing the wonderful Dan, who belittled what he did. He had done a fantastic job and made it very easy to move in and help do what we did. But if I'd like to quote how I was first introduced to some clients by the team, this is Glenn. He is the new sales weasel. Because I believe I inherited that name and tried not to live up to it. And you can tell I'm an account manager because I'm in a blazer, not a t-shirt or a hoodie. Right. So even though I have got the biggest talk title in the history of big talk titles, the wonderful team here at ChitCon have decided to offer me an opportunity to be, as a first-time presenter at a con, to speak to a room of security specialists and enthusiasts on why you may not be aware of one of your greatest cybersecurity risks in your organization, and you don't know about it because of it. So before imposter syndrome kicks in a little bit more than it is right now with the nerves, let me explain what I mean. I'm going to go back to the guts of security. Assets are the heart of security. If you don't know what you've got, how do you protect it? You then need to understand your threats to those assets and the risk associated with it, and then you need to have, and it's not there for some reason, the controls that look after all of that and protect the organization. Once you've got the controls, you can make the right decisions. That's cool, great. It works in theory, right? But how many organizations don't do it? Because the security team or the infrastructure team are too busy. There's the controls. Thank you so much, technology, for being brilliant. As I said, I was the account manager for Lateral Security and Tesserent, and the slides that I'd written a few weeks ago, I don't have access to anymore, so I had to start from scratch. How many people here run phishing exercises for their team? This is the interactive bit with a show of hands. Cool. Now, how many of people in your greater team across your organization have clicked on the link because they were too busy to maybe stop and think about things? How many in this room have clicked on a link in a phishing exercise, or worse, not in a phishing exercise? Anyone brave enough to put their hands up? You're good, because you don't have to put your hands up. I was just teasing on that one. I know people in our industry, and I think one or two of them may be in this room, who have fallen for phishing training when they've been at work because they were so busy at work doing what they needed to do on their day-to-day basis in their job, that basic cybersecurity rules of stop, think, oh yeah, that microsaft.com is not legitimate. It wasn't me, yes. And let's be honest, no one really likes the thing going through Proofpoint training. I shouldn't say that as a brand, but true. So we've all heard stories throughout the years, right? People like the CEO doesn't get paid. He sends an email on Friday at 4 o'clock to the head of HR. Go, oh, look, I've got a new bank account. Can you please make sure my pay next week goes into this bank account? And that person, head of HR, is busy, and they fire it through to somebody else in payroll. They make the bank account change. They don't stop and think because they've got a whole lot of work to do. They're too busy. And then somebody has to take a very awkward call from a very unhappy CEO on Tuesday because they didn't get paid. We know those stories. We know the stories about the person in IT who was too busy to patch the Exchange server, and then the emails got triggered out from a fully compromised Exchange server that was spam after data had been exfiltrated. Why? Because the person in IT got busy 9 months ago and forgot to patch the Exchange server. Because they got too busy. And as I wrote in my big notes, neck minute, because we all know how that goes, right? And we know the story, and it sounds like I'm picking on finance, but I'm not. We've heard the story about the person in finance who was too busy to double check a 500K supplier invoice email saying, please pay to this account, not this account. And it got paid in US dollars. Quick little bit of maths, that's not a small amount of money. If I've told my story properly, the fact that people in organizations are too busy is actually a security risk. And as organizations, I think we all need to start looking at that. But it's not the security team, nor the IT team. It's everybody. Everybody is too busy. We're all under pressure to perform, to do our jobs, to do all the stuff that gets dumped down the chain onto us. We've all copped that. We've all done it. We've all seen it. One of the things I always said I loved about my job at Lateral was it was exceptionally rare I was the smartest person in the room. And I know I'm not the smartest person in this room right now because I've sat through some wonderful presentations. And I'd like to thank first two speakers up this morning whose names are completely gone from my brain. Thank you very much. Ben and James, I think I got from Sight the Wings. They actually set the story up in a little way about people being too busy because they talked about issues that have all arisen. And if you break it down, it's because people didn't get to it. As I said, I know I'm not the smartest person in the room. But how do we solve that? So short of burning capitalism to the ground, unfortunately, it's not an easy fix. And also, as we always should say in the security industry, out loud, don't do crimes. And if you do crimes, don't stand up here and talk about it because that's illegal. Did we have to do the ominous rumble? You did, didn't you? Cool. So there are a lot of security controls that as organizations we can put in place. We know about them all. We talk about them all the time. Great network segregation, privileged access, MFA, logging, backups. But the problem is bigger than that. And I think the solution needs to be different. Now, this is the interactive part. Who here runs a team or a company? This is the hand up. Who runs a team of people in a company? I got 1, 2, cool. You've got KPIs for you as whether you're owner or a leader of the team, and your team have KPIs. How many of the KPIs are you running are actually based on utilization or actually on the bottom line? Now, great cheer for burning capitalism to the ground, but you actually need to worry about the bottom line in a business because that's how you pay your staff. That's how we earn the money. I did earn the money to pay my mortgage. It's because of that. So you need to know about the numbers. But are the team's KPIs also focused on their well-being, both mental and emotional well-being? Like I said, this is a little bit of a left field talk. All the stories I mentioned earlier are real. I've taken the phone calls. Over 5 years, I've taken a lot of phone calls for incident response. I've dealt with the people that have made the mistake and the ones who are frantically trying to fix it. I've heard the stress in their voices. I've heard the fear of I'm going to lose my job or I can't pay 500 people next week. I've heard that. It sucks. Even as an account manager who sell to somebody going through incident response, believe me, it sucks. It's hard because you can hear the pain in their voice. So maybe, that's why this slide title is very, very verbose, maybe, just maybe, companies can not only improve their culture around security, but their actual security by taking maybe a more of a people-centric approach. Looking at the people, looking at your team, making sure the staff have the ability to stop and think about whether they should click that link. Make sure staff have the ability to do their jobs properly, to patch the Exchange server, to check to make sure actually I'm going to ring the boss, the CEO, to see if they wanted their account, the bank account changed. That having the time and not just sort of to jam it all in. Maybe. I know this is not a very strong ending for a talk, and I'm quite grateful I submitted for a 15-minute talk, not a 30-minute talk. But for every organisation, I think the solution to the fact that people are too busy is actually different. You all, and the lights have gone off, I can't see you there. You all know your companies. You know your organisations. You know your teams. And frankly, you'll often know your own whānau, or you should all know your own whānau, right? You should know, are your grandparents too busy? Are your parents too busy? Are your kids too busy to actually stop and click and stop and think? Being too busy is a security risk. And I think it's also actually a mental health risk as well, but that's a talk for a very, very different con from this one. The ngā mihi nui for taking the time to sit and listen to me. The work that we all do to help keep people safe is actually beyond priceless. Never underestimate the work that as security specialists we do. This is off script, but this is because I believe it's important. we help make New Zealand more secure. That's something we should all be proud of it. So again, ngā mihi nui, please keep being awesome and stay safe.
Busted!